Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a book review about this book here, the Union Tidioute brand pocket knives, the Union, all this. I think it's just Tidioute brand pocket knives is the name of the book. Let me see what's on the spine here. Okay, yeah, Tidioute. There's the guy's name and everything. So I guess it's just Tidioute is the name of the book. You can get this on Amazon. It's where I got it. Uh, It's a soft cover paperback. That's what they call it. It's a paperback. But it's got this old. I think this used to be like part of an ad or something here on the cover. And this is a book about both the Tidioute brand and where it originates from, and about the town of Tidioute, Pennsylvania, which is a town in Pennsylvania, fairly close to Titusville, which is why Bill Howard uses the Tidioute brand name on his some of his pocket knives. You see there, Tidioute cutlery. Different than this Tidioute cutlery, but he uses the name because he bought the rights to it and everything. Um, so basically, this book's just about the history of the town of Tidioute and about the history of the cutlery that originates from Tidioute. I'm going to start here with what is probably the most interesting part to a lot of us, or perhaps just, a cool part to a lot of us, which is just, it's got pictures in the back here of some of the razors and stuff that came from like Union Razor Company. My God, I can't talk today. Um, it's got some of the other stuff. You can see here, there's a Tidioute PA stamp, Tidioute here stamp, very similar to the stamp on some of the knives today. There's an elephant toenail there. That's a Union cutlery, made in Tidioute, or originally from Tidioute anyway. See right there's a good rendition of one of the tang stamps they used. Another one, Baldwin Cutlery Company. Um, More Baldwin Cutlery Company, Penn Cutlery. There's a lot of cutlery that has originated from Tidioute. And basically, Tidioute, it was an oil town, much like Titusville, where it just so happens that some people got really into pocket knives. Right here, you can see this book was printed in 2007, so they just have the like very first run of Great Eastern Cutlery here. The 73s, I think they were. They might have also done 23s that year, but they certainly did 73s. So then that's the end of the pictures here. And you've got some like old like catalog type stuff here. I just heard somebody talking about this today on the Catchbit show, and apparently this was originally used to like turn acetylene like lamp, like a thing on like an acetylene lamp. Which means this knife would have been made pre World War One, from the way they were talking anyway. But you can see here, there's some really excellent versions of like just really nice old cutlery here. Some bunch of really cool jackknives that I love, like this knife here. These aren't copied the best, so some of them are a little bit like they lose like their detail a little bit. Here's an office knife. But yeah, this is just very cool overall. Like a little reference guide. It's got some of the old like um, catalog pictures in it that somebody photocopied to put in the book, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think this is a knife made by K-Bar or Union Cutlery. I think is what. Yeah, Union turned into K-Bar. So Union Cutlery is still around. It's just called K-Bar now. But they originated, I believe, from Tidioute, or at least have ties to Tidioute, PA. So that's pretty cool. Also, those hobo knives that come apart apparently used to originate from Tidioute, or at least they were made there. This looks a little bit like my Winchester Torpedo Jack, a little bit, or like a Great Eastern Cutlery 92 Eureka Jack. So looking through here, you can see some of the references Bill Howard used for some of his cutlery over the years. But yeah, and here's a good look at one of these like pull apart fork and knife pocket knives. But anyway, so talking more about the actual book here, you can see here at the beginning there's some stuff about Tidioute, about the oil boom, some of the towns around Tidioute, and then like this is where K-Bar came from apparently. Somebody said they killed a bear with their Union cutlery knife, so Union cutlery became K-Bar because apparently he can't pronounce kill a bear. Or something like that. It's and of course it's probably just like a hearsay kind of thing. Um, I should have highlighted this, but I'm not really about um, highlighting things. But I think there was a thing here in the beginning that I wanted to like um, read because it was interesting to me. It might be this last paragraph here. Knives are unique, akin to people, and one cannot present a history of handcrafted tools, weapons, and keepsakes without speaking of the masters who made them. With the passing of time, only those knives remain. Their makers long past, and like lore, it takes a keen eye to differentiate between tall tales, counterfeits, and the truth. My family is no different. In in the Case clan created no fewer than 32 individual cutlery companies. So the Case of today came from many different companies, basically. There were a whole bunch of Case knives over the years, from made by different like things and everything. This whole part here in the introduction is very interesting to me as well. Um, while rummaging through a tattered cigar box full of old pocket knives, I love the fact that the cigar box is mentioned because I actually keep quite a few of my knives in cigar boxes because they're the perfect size um, of old pocket knives at a local antique market. You spy one particular bone handled knife that catches your attention. You know how to eliminate the better ones from the cheaper examples by examining each closely and thinking about the many details that you have learned to look for. I think we can all kind of relate to that. Anybody who's gone to a flea market and looked through pocket knives, you pick through a bunch of Imperials and stuff that are lesser quality, and occasionally you'll find something that's worth spending money on. Are the handles correct for this type of knife? Is the shield from the right era? Are the construction materials correct for this time in history? These and many other fine details tell you that you are looking at a quality piece of cutlery that was built to last a long time and serve its owners well. Only after having completing this thorough examination do you open the blade, carefully carefully scraping away the grit from the hidden tang stamp. Slowly a name begins to magically appear and your heart races just a little bit as you discover the letters Tidioute. Your hunch about it being an example of some of this country's finest cutlery was correct. It may be just another pocket knife to the unknowing eye, but this knife could date back as far as 1897, when craftsmanship and pride in the end product were the foundation of America at the turn of the century. And then it goes into this thing about how to pronounce Tidioute. If you didn't know, it's Tiddy Oot. Yeah. But that's a town in Pennsylvania. I've never been there. I would like to go at some time. Here's a drawing of Tidioute in 1896, apparently. Let me bring that closer up here. There are some reference pictures throughout the book here. Um, you can see about the oil boom. This is a Tidioute oil derrick postcard from 1873. I have not found any Tidioute oil related postcards. I would like to. I did find one for Titusville, and maybe I'll show that at some point once I find it. So I'm not sure where it ended up, but I did buy a Titusville postcard with the Drake well on it because I thought it was cool. This is where the cover of this book comes from. Here, it is a poster, I guess. Union Razor pocket knife box. Okay, so it was on the box of the pocket knife, and it just goes in about the town of Tidioute, the different families that lived there, and everything. And then eventually we get into, well, this is where the K-bar thing I'm talking about, the Kill Bear thing, which is interesting. Tidioute Cutlery Company Limited, Best by Test. Um, it goes into talking about, the first knives made in Tidioute. Um, Somewhere in here, this is all the materials that they bought to start the company of Tidioute Cutlery Company, which is interesting, especially seeing some of these prices here, obviously, because yeah, they're obviously pretty shocking to us now, but once again, this was in 1897, so everything was a lot cheaper back then. But like one lamp stove, 75 cents. Um, yeah, so it's very interesting. Um, this is interesting also. One of the brothers of the guy who founded the company, I think, was found after a like boat accident. I don't want to call it a boat accident, but like a boiler exploded and a boat sank or something, and they identified the brother by the Tidioute knife found in his pocket. I think this goes into it here. Let me see if I can adjust my lamp here to be better for this. Um, so, first an ebony handled knife branded Tidioute Cutlery Co., and then other evidence rapidly multiplied. But basically, the body was identified by his pocket knife, which is extremely interesting to those of us who carry pocket knives, because I think some of us know that, it's one of those things that if you die with a certain knife in your pocket, they're going to know who you are, or your family will know who you are anyway, or the people close to you will know. Um, and I think there's a thing in here about how that led to certain knife companies creating like a what would you call that? Oh, I can't think of what they would call it, but right here it's explaining it. So I'll just show that here. Um, Let me see here. Where is it? Standard Knife would start using the slogan, "If you die with a standard knife in your pocket, will pay for the funeral." So that's an interesting thing, and I think that it is definitely very interesting. Of course, nowadays funerals are quite a bit more expensive than they were back then. But yeah, it just kind of keeps going on about other places. Union Razor Company is a big one, from Tidioute. Here you can see some Tidioute elephant toenails here, Tidioute related ones. Um, so made by the companies that were there. Here you can see the patent paper for like the I'm not exactly sure what this is called. The combined knife and fork is what it says on the patent there. And there's a locking knife here, patent for what year is that? 1905. So it's a liner lock, patented in 1905. Perhaps the first liner lock. I don't think we'll ever know that completely for sure. Um, but a very early liner lock for sure. There's this interesting thing about this hone that nobody's ever figured out what it was or ever been able to remake it. And they lost whatever the instructions to make one were or whatever. Um, but it's very interesting that something like that existed. It was this hone that like you didn't need to strop or do anything. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There was a thing in here about that, but I can't find it really quickly here. Picture of some of the Tidioute cutlery workers. Some of them very much look like boys. Of course, this was the early 1900s. This one's 1911, so labor laws were not what they are today, obviously. Um, but yeah, it's just a very interesting book, and I'm probably not going to go on too much more about it because I do feel like you should buy this book if you're interested in Tidioute cutlery, or the history of cutlery in Pennsylvania, especially. There's a thing about modern day Tidioute, PA. I am planning on going there at some point because I think it would be cool just to see. Um, but right here, timeline for the cutlery companies of Tidioute is interesting. Little reference here: Tidioute Cutlery Company from 1896. Let me move my lamp again. 1896 to 1906. Okay, this lamp's not doing me great right now. Get into shadow here. Union Razor Company from 1902 to 1909. Union Cutlery Company from 1909 to 1911. Tidioute Cutlery Company, which is different than Tidioute Cutlery Company Limited, from 1909 to 1916. Baldwin Cutlery Company from 1916 to 1928. It was sold to Penn Cutlery after that. Baldwin Cutlery Company, Jamestown, New York, which I guess is the same company but operating at a different site, perhaps, from 1919 to 1930. Penn Cutlery Company, 1928 to 1932. Penn Cutlery Company, leftover parts and reconstructed knives from 1932 to 1971, which is interesting because that's pretty late. But this is a very interesting knife, and in here there's even some like things about how some of the knives that Great Eastern Cutlery makes got their names. There's a thing in here about Ben Hogan, who was a man who lived in Tidioute, and his I don't know if I want to call her his girlfriend, but uh, Kate, what was her name? There's a knife named after her, and I'm sure some of you will know this. Is there a thing in here? Where's the Ben Hogan thing? Since I've already gone on for 17 minutes, let me see if I can find the Ben Hogan thing, because it is interesting. But there's a thing in here about Ben Hogan, who the 65, most of the 65s is named after. Um, French Kate, that's her name. It's French Kate, and some of you will know that the lady's leg knife that Great Eastern Cutlery made was called the French Kate, I believe. Um, and from what I understand, French Kate was kind of a bit of a prostitute or something. Um, and she kind of had an interesting history, as well as Ben Hogan, who was like a spy for the Civil War, I think for the Confederacy, and all sorts of interesting things about him. But I can't find the thing in here about Ben Hogan because I feel like it was pretty early on, but maybe it wasn't. Um, but yeah, so I don't know where the thing in here about Ben Hogan is, but there's a thing in here about Ben Hogan and French Kate, which two of the knives are named after, of course. And of course, the whole like Tidioute line of the Great Eastern Cutlery knives gets its name from this company, this Tidioute Cutlery Company. So, interesting book. I think it was like, I want to say it was like $10. I'm not sure. Um, like I said, you can get it on Amazon. I think it's well worth the money for anybody who's super into cutlery history, or even if you're into like oil history of Pennsylvania. It's interesting for that too. But anyway, I just wanted to do a review on this book because it is very well related to what I do videos on, which is traditional pocket knives. So I figured it would be interesting to do a video about this. I don't normally do book reviews, so I'm not sure how it went, but I would definitely recommend you get this book if you are at all interested in the history of cutlery in the United States, because this is a good chunk of it here. Um, but yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a good day.